So anyway, we'll continue to follow that. I mean, it's an ongoing thing, and we were talking about some of it in the break. And the problem is in France is this decision. You see the president trying to figure out how to handle this, and it seems like they're trying to make it a police issue, not a military issue. The only problem is I don't know that the police forces. I mean, can they go to war with this bunch?
No, we've got calls even in our country to demilitarize the police. You know, they're getting too much like an army.
Right.
Well, I think they're just responding to what they got to deal with.
Well, this goes back to this thing again. I don't understand it, and maybe I hate, and I know somewhere. I mean, she couldn't care less what we think, but it's just a good example. And I'm not trying to continue to harp on something that happened several years ago, because but that this mentality, and Sheryl Crow did say it, the way a lot of people think. Like, I mean, this is the kind of thinking, by the way, of a very young child, not an adult. Okay.
Well,
the best way.
There you go.
How about this? The best way not to have war is to not have enemies. That was her foreign policy. Well, see, Cheryl,
sounds good.
Cheryl, the problem is that's a
Secretary of Defense right there.
Well, here's the thing. The problem is that's a two-way street. I think that most people in this country, and in the free world, okay, really would prefer not to be at war with radical Islam. Mm-hmm. I really think that I think everybody would say, you know, we'd just rather not be in that situation. But if there's a group that says your existence and the things you hold dear, and you are not under our law and order, Sharia law, then you're marked, and you better watch everything you say or do, or we will kill you. Well, that's really on the world. The world is a playground, and every time you walk out there, a bully comes over and smacks you in the face. I mean, It's like, okay, I don't know if y'all know this. They want to go to war. I don't know how to tell everybody this. They want the war.
They don't want to be friends.
They don't want to be your friend. And every time you reach out and say, let's be friends, they say, well, you sure going to be easy to defeat. Mm-hmm. They, you know, I know Bubba and I probably do this WW2 example to the point some of you are so tired of it, but it's just glaring. It's just a glaring.
Well, maybe if we learn the lesson, we can move on.
There are moments in time, nation against nation, a people against a people, and the reason why I'm using that example too is you have the Palestinians against the Jews. Sometimes there's conflict, and the only way that conflict is ever going to be resolved is by one side winning. Anything in between, you just end up with people at magazines laying dead all over the place, and little pockets of death and destruction, and eventually, as we saw on 9/11, if they can get a big one going, then there'll be a big one, and it's like just to ignore it when someone just has that I don't want to use the word resolve, but because really a lot of the people, if you really understand some of the way your eternity is supposed to work in Islam, a lot of these things are not acts of devotion; they're acts of desperation. Mm-hmm. Because if I can be martyred, then I immediately get to go to their version of heaven. That takes the scales and writes them in my direction. Anything before that, I'm just kind of looking at the scales, going, "Oh, well, did I? Did I do enough?" But that makes sure that is a sure way in. So it's really an act of desperation. A lot of times you can see the way they lived their life the day before they did it, and it shows you that. But the bottom line is this: you're dealing. It's like is there anything more frustrating? We've been with this on things that are not near as important, where you try to make somebody be something you wish they would be, but you can't. You can't. They have to change. Right. You can't change them. Right. You've tried to, and then you get to the point you go, there's only one thing they understand.
Yeah.
And that is that you show resolve. Now I am using the word resolve to defeat them, and if you don't, they laugh. I mean, it's just like and I'm not saying, please understand me. I'm talking about nation versus nation, a people versus a people. Over here on this side, evangelism is going on, and there are conversions that take place. Of course, if you convert from Islam to Christianity, you're now marked for death. Which to me, that lets you know how serious you are about your conversion.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, and I have a great respect for those Christians that have been martyred that says this is the truth, and if I have to be killed, then I'll just have to be killed.
And they get special treatment, by the way.
Yeah. So, but you'd be hard pressed to find some of those here in America. But here's the bottom line: they're not going to stop. They have to be stopped. Is that fair? I mean, they're not just going to say, you know what?
We've changed our mind.
You know, it's kind of like these idiots when we went on war and we went on the offensive in Iraq and Afghanistan. I actually met people that I think thought that they had just decided to stop, that they were just kind of tired of terrorist attacks. Y'all know that's not true. We put together a plan that made it very difficult for them to commit terrorist attacks. And then you know what we've done? We've taken the accelerator and we've just
took our foot off.
Took our foot off it. And when we stopped, they didn't say, hey, thank y'all for your mercy.
Yeah.
Thank you for your mercy on our people. Thank you for your mercy on our nation. You know what they said? Now that you're gone, we can put this stuff together and we can get back on we're going to go back on the offense. You have to win the war. I mean,
and two, if anything,
and you got to fight it as long as you have to.
If anything, the war in Iraq, and I don't want to oversimplify this, but like these guys in Paris, what were they accused of doing beforehand? What were they doing? They were recruiting people to go fight in Iraq. Okay, the point is, when we were on the offensive, that caused them to all have to gather in one place. Well, that's what we want. We're good at fighting that kind of war. We're not good at fighting when you're pizza delivery guys and you're running an underground terrorist organization. That's much harder for us to target.
You know why? You know why they were able to do something in Paris? Because they didn't have to worry about going over to Iraq.
That's right. They had free time on their hand now.
Yeah. We'll be back. All right. As we get back, what else is out there? So we've got the whole terrorist thing going on in Paris.
Well,
have we officially called it terrorist yet? I know that was so hard to say for some people.
I know it's, but I think we can go with that right now, Rick. Also, I mentioned Donald Trump. Here is where he has started a fire. Of course, he's famous for that.
Oh yeah, and I don't think he really cares.
No. It says Donald Trump ridiculed for blaming massacre on France's strict gun laws. And some people were getting on him about his tweet, but also at the time of the writing of this story, the tweet was favored by 933 people and retweeted over 1,400 times.
Wow.
He said, let's see, I don't know which order these are. Okay, it says, if the people so violently shot down in Paris had guns, at least they would have had a fighting chance. He said, isn't it interesting that the tragedy in Paris took place in one of the toughest gun control countries in the world? And then he said, remember, when guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns.
Right. Well, I mean, so let's go just logic. Let's take political affiliations, religious convictions. Let's take all that out. Is it not logical that if I am bent on killing people or taking their stuff, okay, would I rather go into a place where I know there are no guns allowed, or would I go into a place where I'm not sure? Which one would you go in?
Yeah. It just depends on your state of mind, I guess. But I think most logical people would go, I'm going to go. Look, any predator, okay, and that's what these folks are, they pick the easiest target that they – and, you know, we've learned this from the animal kingdom. I know everybody likes to talk about animals. Animals go for the weak, the young, and the last. Because a predator, the worst thing that can happen to a predator is get wounded.
Can't be injured.
You know why? Because they can't hunt anymore. Yeah. If a predator loses a step, if they get wounded in an attack, then they die. They can't catch anymore. I mean, even if they survive, they're going to die. So they go for the weak, the easy kill, the baby, the last one, the easy pickings, the low fruit, however you want to classify it. So, you know, the point being that if you have a fighting chance, and Trump's getting beat up about this, it's probably not the time for this discussion.
That's right. Yeah.
But I think it is always a valid point to consider. Now, the article also says that that France is not the most gun control state. That would actually be the UK. But the point that he was saying is that most citizens are not walking around with a chance to defend themselves against automatic wielding terrorists.
Well, let's make a point, though, because I think sometimes you need a moment for someone to understand something, maybe have an epiphany. If you're out there today and you say that Donald Trump has said something about his view on guns that shouldn't have been said at that time and it's too early, that's how we feel. when there's a children's shooting.
Yeah, we had the Walmart thing the other day.
A 2-year-old gets a gun out of a parent who had the legal right to carry a concealed weapon. When y'all start grandstanding on us, this is why people shouldn't have weapons. This is why people shouldn't have guns.
This is a reverse grandstand.
This is the reverse. So this is how it feels.
Yep.
Okay, so I want you to know, if you think Donald Trump is inappropriate, then keep your mouth shut when somebody takes a gun and goes in and guns down a bunch of people, or there's somebody who has something happen like the Walmart incident. Okay, so if you don't like the way this feels, then shut up when it's the other way around, because that's how it feels.
Yep.
Okay.
I think a broader discussion should be about looking at France and where their culture is today and where the culture war is, if you will, and the culture line, and know that, when people come into your country and they bring their culture with them, you're basically getting in bed with them. So you got to know who you're in bed with.